You spoke yesterday a lot about the shortage of nurses in the province, and I'm really glad again to hear that this is being recognized. Nurses have worked so hard and put so much overtime, double time shifts, long hours, and they're under incredible stress. Every department and every hospital is running short staff. And like you said yesterday, it's a crisis, but it's dangerous. It's dangerous in the worst way. They're working, long hours, no breaks. They barely get to sit in the run of a day. I heard all this senator talk the other day about playing cards. My 8 years in the hospital, I've never seen nurses sit down and play a game of cards. Their work is unimaginably stressful, and the time that they put in, the hours they put in, double shifts that they put in, and not being able, and leaving there feeling like they can't do the work that they've come to do is really disheartening. A lot of the issues is lack of nurses, but there's also a huge waiting list to get into the universities. It was really good to see in the budget that over $2 million was put towards the hiring of nurses and to create more jobs, full-time and part-time, but also the recruitment of more nurses and international nurses and internationally educated nurses is very important. What was troubling to see was the province had decided to cut nearly $9 million in funding for the university programs in New Brunswick. The universities have stated that these cuts will hurt their ability to deliver clinical training and to build their programs. The cuts made no sense where there's such a long waiting list for placements in nursing in the University of Moncton and UNB, and the seats remained empty because of the lack of instructors. This funding cut will only exacerbate the shortage of nurses in the province. Can you explain a little bit about the cuts and what's being done with them?
Thank you for the question, and I understand very clearly on the surface someone would say, we have a shortage of nurses. How could you conceivably cut $8 million out of a nursing recruitment program? None, whatever. On the surface, that is a very, very legitimate question. The money's there. The problem was, it wasn't working. We didn't get a single nurse for that money. 4 years, $35 million later, that money did not produce a single nurse. Not 10. It only produced 10. $35 million, you only got 10 nurses? $35 million, you only got 20? None. Not one. Now, if you go back, I'm old enough to remember as a young teenager, high school, young people were looking for careers. Are you going to do this or this or this? Nursing was done in the nursing schools. It was the St. John School of Nursing, the Fredericton School of Nursing, and the government controlled the educational institutions. The government funded them, and the government used those institutions, government-run nursing schools, for the purpose of producing a steady supply of nurses to meet the needs of the health system. So government said we need nurses, so they have government nursing schools, and they fund them, they recruit, and so the system worked. Well, over time, the nursing profession transformed from nursing schools to the universities. The universities have taken over and are now responsible for the education of nurses. If you want to be a nurse in New Brunswick, you have two options. You have the University of Moncton, or you have the University of New Brunswick. Those are the only two places where you get to be a nurse in New Brunswick. Okay? So, go back to the nursing school analogy. The government says to the universities, we need more nurses. You're responsible for educating nurses. We know it costs money to educate nurses. So here's some money to do that. Here's $9 million a year. So the point is, you can continue with this charade, and the previous government never distinguished, some did, but the previous government never distinguished between spending and investing. This is a prime example of good intention, money spent, with no result. So you can go around and you can have a big smile on your face and pat yourself on the shoulder and say, we're spending $9 million a year for the creation of more nursing positions. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Sounds altruistic and noble. Oh yeah, government's spending $9 million a year creating more nurses. Except the true test of anything is in its results, not in its intention. Good intentions produced no results. So, I'm not calling this a cut. I'm calling it, we are suspending this program because it is ineffective. We are not getting value for our money. And we're going to do something better that produces results. So I am calling on, and I am open to, and my number's in the book, to the University of Moncton and the University of New Brunswick to come together with government and put this money to use so that we produce nurses, which is what we intended to do in the first place. So let's get value for our money. We're not going to mail you $9 million and say, oh well, see ya, hope it all works out. No, I want to sit down with the University of Moncton and the University of Brunswick with the $9 million that we have here and start getting results and start producing nurses that this province so desperately needs. Again, we're in the business of getting results for the people in New Brunswick, not running around saying, bragging about spending money that gets no results.
Thank you to the chair, through the chair to the minister. So we have a great number of potential nurses, kind of on hand and ready and willing to go to work. We have nurses that are working, casual work that are looking for full-time, and we have money put aside that are doing this. And I'm assuming you met with the universities to come up with alternate solutions. has there anything been started or put aside, or kind of put to work for alternative solutions, whether it go back to, where we were a few years ago, where we were producing more nurses, or has anything been in the works, or just still, meeting and finding out what's happening?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is not that complicated. University of Moncton has a nursing school. University of New Brunswick has a nursing school. Government has the money, and they want nurses. So it's a simple matter of saying, create more positions. Create the staff, accept more people, and fill your seats. There's seats that weren't filled. I don't know why they weren't filled. I don't know why people with good academic marks applied for nursing at the University of New Brunswick and their application was rejected, and there's 37 empty seats there. I don't understand that, and I'm going to find out what happened there, because I'm coming looking and I'm going to find out. Why are there empty seats at UNB Nursing School? Why are people with an 87 degree average applying for nursing and being told there's no position available, and then we see that there's 37 empty seats? Well, I'm going to tell you something. This Minister of Health is going to get the answer to that.
Excellent. That's great news. And very disturbing, those numbers. We've heard many reports about the physical abuse towards the nurses on the job, and it seems to be growing, I suppose, with our health issues and everything that goes along with it. And physically attacked and mentally attacked, and it seems to be growing, over the years too. Is there anything being done, or does the Department of Health plan to address the safety issues, or are they addressing it to ensure the safety for the nurses and these hospital workers at the time?
Look, the nurses work. I'm not the type of person that has to run and hide behind anything. But the nurses essentially work for the health authorities, Horizon and Vitalite. They have, and the department works with, I work with, the Nurses Union, the Nurses Association, Vitalite, Horizon, in an effort to, regularly address these issues. You're always going to have, and there's no excuse for it. There might be a reason, but there's no excuse. The fact of the matter is there are people who are in hospital, may have mental health problems. They may be coming off surgery and they have a bad reaction to drugs or the anesthetic or something like that. So often when people are in hospitals, they're perhaps not at their best, and so you're as some of the nurses have said, it's part of the job. That doesn't mean we should turn a blind eye to it and ignore it and just say, oh well, no big deal, it's part of the job. We have to be vigilant and diligent to minimize this to the fullest extent possible. And to that end, the Nurses Association and the Nurses Union have been very, very collaborative, very open, very supportive in the fact that we're all on the same side here. We want to keep this to an absolute minimum. It is unlikely, realistically, that it'll ever be zero, just because of the nature of the business. But certainly, efforts are made to minimize it to the extent possible.